Hello everybody and welcome back down the creek. Spring has sprung. Next Tuesday is April 1st. So I've actually done a little bit of fishing so far this year, and I haven't really put any content together for that because literally it was like an hour here, an hour there. So it's basically by the time I get set up, I only can fish for a very short period of time. And I've only been able to put one walleye in the boat, and that was the other day. I tried out my trolling spread just to make sure everything was set up correctly. And I do have one planer board that I need to adjust, but I did put one walleye in the boat, and the reports that I'm getting is that the main push of fish really hasn't started yet. So I imagine with these warmer temps that we're going to get right now, we should start to really see fish push up into the river. Um, I'm not a big river jigging person. I can do it, but I'm not super great at it. I know boat control is key. Um, and I'm not the type of person that can keep the boat as vertical as I like. So I need to practice that, and I hope to do some of that this year. But I like to troll, and I like to troll the mouth. And there's a little special way that I do that, and I'm hoping to get a video on that here in the next few weeks to kind of show you guys what I'm doing and what I'm running. So more to come on that. But because spring is here, today's video is going to be about maintenance that you need to do for your motor and your boat in spring, right? So as most people think of maintenance, well, I do my maintenance in fall and I do my oil change, and yeah, I did all that. But these are the things that I do in spring just to make sure that through the winter, everything is good for the summer fishing season, and that I'm not going to have any problems. So that's enough chitter chatter. Let's get into today's video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find all the grease zerts on the outboard motor. So you want to grease your motor once a year at least. In order to do this, you're going to want some gloves. I just got some Harbor Freight gloves because can be kind of dirty. And then you're going to need a grease gun, which I have. And you're also going to need some paper towel to wipe up the excess, because when you pump the grease, there is going to be some grease that comes out certain places when you fill the cavity with new grease. And then you want to make sure that you're using the proper grease. So I use Lucas's marine grease. It's the product that I like to use. So I do have an extra tube here, but I've got a tube loaded in. It doesn't have to be Lucas. It can be any number of brands, but you want to make sure that you use a marine grease. The reason you use a marine grease is because it won't wash away with the water, and it's designed to work in wet areas. So definitely want to make sure that you use the correct grease. So let's get started. My first grease zert is right here. So I'll throw a picture of the grease zert up in the corner here. You can kind of see what a grease zert looks like. So basically to do this, I just have a push tip. I don't have one that locks. So I'm just going to push this tip onto that zert, and I'm going to pump grease. There it goes. So then, now that I've got fresh grease in there, I just need to get this to break loose now. Like so. So it can get hung up on there pretty good. Now let me show you kind of what that looks like here. So what I did is I pumped grease in here, and then you can see the brown colored grease that came out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up the old grease that came out. You can see there's brown grease and there's blue grease. The blue grease is the new stuff. I'm going to clean off that grease zert, and then that zert is done. So there is another zert right there in the motor as well, right here. That's the next one we're going to do. So at this point, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go through and just basically do the rest of them the exact same way. I'm going to push the grease gun on and I'm going to pump it until I get the old grease coming out. I'm going to clean up my mess a little bit, and then I'm going to move on and find the next one. Now this is the first time I've done this on this boat. This boat is new for me. I know that there's these two. I'm going to look around and see if I can find any more. I might look online to see if there's ones that I'm not aware of, because I want to make sure I get them all. Okay, so the next thing that I like to do is I like to use this Quicksilver 24C. It is also a marine grease, but it's kind of a different type. And I like to grease up some of the other moving steering components, like the rod that moves in and out on both sides to make the motor go left and right. And basically what I do is I just put a little bit on my hand and my glove. And I'm just going to put a little bit on the cylinder just to make sure that it moves real easy and it doesn't bind up. So this rod right here is what we're talking about. And I just like to add just a little bit on there. So open up my grease. A little bit in my fingers. And I'm just going to put just a drop on there, just to keep it lubricated. And I just want just a little bit on there. And then what I'll do is I'll go up to the front and I'll turn the motor, and then I'll do the other side. So now we're on the other side. I'm going to basically do the same thing. I'm going to put just a little drop in my gloves. And I'm going to put just a little bit on this shaft, just to keep everything all lubed up and working nicely. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to inspect my prop, and I want to take this off and look for line that got into the prop nut. Now, in my model, to drain my oil, I have to take this prop off. So I actually did this last fall. But what I didn't have, because I wasn't expecting that was kind of a surprise to me, because in the past, it was all on the outside. And most motors, I think it is on the outside. So I didn't have any grease or anything to grease the prop shaft or anything. So we're going to take this off. We're going to re-inspect it for line, and I'm going to show you that process. So to get this prop off, it has a tab. So you need a flathead screwdriver, and you need to remove the locking tabs, and you bend them out. And that will allow the nut to come off. Then you need a 27mm socket on there, and I like to use a board. Just your standard piece of wood, and I'll jam it here like so, and that gives me the leverage I need to loosen this. We have our nut off. Then you want to be very careful which way, how this all comes apart, because there's a rhyme and a reason to it. So then this is the lock washer. And I don't need to take too much of this stuff apart. But we're going to very carefully take this off, right? And there is like a thrust washer in there. And there also is this spacer here. Right, so I'm going to get my paper towel and we're going to clean this up. Get the old grease off. Inspect the seal. I don't see any fishing line on here. Clean the old grease off the shaft. As much of that old grease off of there as possible. Clean off this washer here. Down in where the seal is. We're just going to inspect it for any issues, which I don't see any. So that's good. So we're ready to put this back together. So again, we're going to come in with our 2,4-C. This is the grease that I use for this application. This is the primary use that I use for this application. So we're going to put some grease on the shaft and on the threads. And we're going to use our gloves here to massage it in and see if I think it's enough. Right? And I usually do a pretty generous amount because I don't want this to seize. That marine grease will kind of keep anything from getting locked in there. Then we'll put our thrust washer back on, or our washer. I think that's a thrust washer. I think that's what it's called. Right, and then we'll put our prop back on. Now I didn't take the sleeve out of the prop, but there is a sleeve in there, as you can see. We want it all to line up. I'm just going to give that a spin to make sure it's not rubbing on anything. It looks good there. Now I'm going to put this lock washer back on, and that goes in a certain place. There's little tabs here that lock it into place. All right, and then I'm going to get my 2,4-C back out. And I want to put just a smidge of grease in the threads of that nut. I just want to make sure that this nut is good and lubed up, because I don't want it to seize on there and give me a hard time. Okay, so at this point I'm going to take the gloves off so that I don't make a mess. Put the lid back on my 2,4-C. Of course, you get this grease gets everywhere. So we want to use our socket now to tighten that back up. Okay, so we got our Pittsburgh torque wrench set for 55 foot-pounds. And we're gonna getting it tight. So now we had the click, it's at 55 foot-pounds. We want to lock the tabs back in place. And this is going to make sure that it doesn't move. So now our lock tabs are back in place, and I feel comfortable and confident that that's going to do good. However, I will check this to make sure that it doesn't move on me. Man, the mosquitoes are out already. That's crazy. Not even April 1st and I'm getting mosquitoes. So I'm pretty confident that, however, after the first time we use it, when I put it back in the garage next time, I will take a peek at this and re-torque it just to make sure that it stayed at that 55 foot-pounds. But on to the next step is torquing the bolts that connect the motor to the boat itself. So I'm going to tilt this down and get everything I need for that. So on my boat, I'm going to use the same torque wrench. It's still 55 foot-pounds, but it uses a 19 millimeter torque wrench, and I'm going to use an adjustable wrench for the other side because I don't have a 19 millimeter wrench. So let me get this set up. That adjusted quite a bit. So it was definitely time. So there's 4 other bolts. I'm going to get those done. So I really only have one more thing left to do, and then I think I'm going to be good. And that's to grease the trailer bearings. So this boat has the easy grease bearings. So I take the hub off. Then there's a rubber seal on the end that I take off, like so. And then you can kind of see there's a bunch of grease in there already. I'm going to get a paper towel and just kind of clean it up a little bit, and then I'm going to fill it with grease. So taking a peek here, something doesn't quite look right. This may have gone bad and I may need to replace it. So I'm going to pump some grease in there and kind of see what I see. Actually, it took grease, so I'm going to look and see what the other ones look like, but there's just something there that doesn't look right to me. We'll keep an eye on it this year. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rubber cap back on. I'm going to clean the hub because I don't want a bunch of grease on my hub and I don't want it leaking everywhere. And then while I'm here, I'm going to check the lug nuts to make sure that they're torqued properly. So the lug nuts are 21 millimeter, and we're going to torque them to 110 foot-pounds. So that took a lot of adjustment, which means it was definitely time to do this job. So now I'm going to basically rinse and repeat on the remaining 3 axles. I'm going to do everything exactly the same way. If I find any problems, maybe I'll bring you guys back and I'll show you what problems I found. So I got all the trailer bearings greased. There was a couple that didn't look the way that I thought they should. I thought maybe a spring had popped out. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see. I might go to Cabela's today and kind of look at replacing those. So we'll find out, but there's enough grease in there for now, and it is holding grease. So the last thing that I like to do is, because I have a swing away, is I like to get out the PB blaster and just touch up a few spots. Predominantly like the gears here, the gear teeth on here. I just kind of put some. The crank spot, inside and out. Here, the other side of the spool. I like to put a little grease on my pin. down in here, the swing point. And that's it. So now I know my boat is ready for the water all season. I noticed I got a lot of adjustment on the motor bolts and on the lug nuts. So it's definitely something I would advise that you check out this spring before you really get into full force fishing season. So now I feel comfortable with where I'm at. I'm going to be good all year to get out on the water and hopefully have good, safe fishing trips. So we'll call this a video. Thanks for watching on the creek. Make sure that you check out some of my other content. I've got install videos, I've got fishing videos, I got a little bit of everything. If you like the channel, if you like the content I'm putting out, please like and subscribe to the video. I can really use the support. We want to grow this year and see what we can do. I'm going to try and put out one video a week all summer, as long as I get enough content together. I do work a full-time job. So thanks guys for watching again. And remember guys, get out and live. Catch you next time here at On the Creek.
Probably can't.